What up? What up? Welcome back to the Sneaker History Podcast. Back with my guys, Robbie and Rohit, to talk some kicks. What's good, fellas? How you guys doing?
Here to provide a little R&R, if you will.
Yeah,
Definitely.
I think this is a nice compliment to everybody's Donda session. Hopefully everybody got through disc 1 or disc 2.
I didn't listen through all of it, but the parts I did listen to, some I really liked, some I really didn't like, and that's okay. It's with anything new. It's like, your ears aren't used to it, but that's a whole nother time. But not as this isn't be much shorter than Donda. You can probably play 4 of these by the time Donda's over.
Yeah, I didn't listen to it. Maybe because, Robbie's Lakers just got me depressed. So it's more of a, my beautiful dark twisted fantasy mood. Mm-hmm. If I'm going to listen to Kanye right now, I don't understand how the Lakers have the budget to sign literally the entire 2004 All-Star team or 2003 All-Star team.
12.
Yeah,
they had like 6 2012 All-Stars and Anthony Davis.
Yep.
No, it's crazy when everybody's willing to take a pay cut. Rondo signed for like $2.3 million. That's like NBA chump change. So he wants that taste. He wants that taste again. He doesn't want it. Yeah. So
we'll get to see CP3 and Rondo round 2. Hopefully, I'm excited for that.
Man, I hate Ron. He's one of those players, man. Like, I'm sure other people, and we'll get off this topic. The last Mouse in the Palace on Netflix documentary stuff going on. I finally watched that. Like Steven Jackson type stuff. Like, you hate him because he's on the other team, but he will ride and die for you if he's on your squad. Rondo's that kind of player. Celtics Rondo, I hate him vehemently. Lakers Rondo, I love him like with passion. So it's funny how that works.
No, I was just going to say, Robbie, the best way to troll Celtics fans now is give Rondo a second ring with a Laker, because in my mind, then he's more a Laker than he ever was a Celtic.
Oh, hell yeah.
Yeah.
He's more respected. We're getting way off topic, but he was little brother to KG and stuff. He wouldn't get the same kind of respect.
Yep.
Anywho.
All right. How do we want to start this off? We want to go rockin' and coppin', or we want to read some reviews first? Or a review,
I'll go ahead and just read the review because it's quicker. We got a couple new ones, so I'll read the one that was most recent, which is a 5-star review from Your New Secret. Talking sneakers for all sneakerheads. Get these 4 dudes on a mic together and magic happens. It's a show about sneakers, the industry, and the people who care about both. Take the hype and pretense out and leave it at the door. Shoes are functional expressions of art, and these gentlemen appreciate all types. But beyond the show lies the gem of the operation, the actual Sneaker History Discord. Actual community of people that care less about the kicks on the feet, but the people behind them. From food to football kits to Formula One to fevered, healthy debate, you name it, the SH Discord has got it. A golden place that hasn't been ruined by the exploding and extravagantly influenced industry that is shoes. They go on your feet, people. It's not that serious. 10 out of 5 stars. Friday starting 5 suggestion, 5 candy bars. Let's make it happen, guys. Thank you, Your New Secret. I appreciate the alliteration. I appreciate the 5 stars. And yeah, thank you again, guys.
That's an amazing review. I didn't
All
see
American
that one.
Rejects. My little secret. Dirty little secret.
Yeah.
That was really good. Thank you.
That was good. Yeah, definitely appreciate it. If you haven't left us a review, even if you have, you can update your review and tell us we suck. I know Rohit doesn't like it when I say that, but I'm totally down for it. But, we'd rather have the positive reviews, the glowing reviews. If you've been listening this long, if you've been listening as long as our secret out here, you should probably just join the Discord. Patreon.com/sneakerhistory. Get you in there. It is by far the best part of, I was going to say waking up or something, but that's Folgers. So
yeah,
I'll just drop it.
Like it's hot.
Yeah.
It's really a good place. Fun place.
Yep.
Definitely is. So before we get into this episode, which is going to be an interesting one, Robbie had a great idea in picking our favorite years for sneaker releases. So I'm looking forward to having the conversation with you guys. We might even, I don't know what Mike's plan, since he's not going to be here tonight, but like maybe Mike can even drop his 5 on his channel or something like that to make it a little more interesting, to give his audience some insight into his picks, because I thought that was really cool to see everybody's different opinions on it. But anyway, before we get into that, what are you guys rocking and copping lately?
I'll pop it off. I'll start it. So Delta variant out here. I've been sitting around the house. Other than Saturday getting dinner with this lovely gentleman, Rohit, I've been wearing my RS Dreamer Ledos, RS Dreamer 2. I had a friend come over who is historically a Nike head, and he picked these up. Like, nothing wrong with that. Like, kind of like a Hank Hill. Like, this is a gorgeous. It's pretty much just a high top version of the one, but it says Dreamer on the back. I took the insole out because these shoes are tight as hell. You have to go a half size up. Like, these do not fit me if I have the insole in, but that's okay. If I was hooping, that kind of tightness would be nice, but just very supple, beautiful, lovely shoe. One of the last colorways to come out. They're going to stop doing the shoe, so go get a pair. Puma, there's a black and blue pair now. Go use, if you're in the Discord, or I'll post photos with these in the Sneaker History Instagram, use our affiliate links. Go buy stuff through our affiliate links. It really helps us out. And when it comes to COPPIN, there's so many damn shoes. The one that's really kind of breaking through over everything else is the Air Max BW coming out next month. I've been on a real like Air Max like kick. Historically, I would say up until like 2010, I did not like Air Maxes. And then slowly, yeah, really weird. I did not like wearing them. I like Air Max Tech, like in basketball shoes and other things, but like a straight up like Heritage Air Max, like no. But over, especially since like probably the last 5-6 years, it's really kicked up. Where I now, anytime an OG of a classic comes out, like I have to get it. So
nice.
That's on my list. How about you, Nicholas?
So ROCKIN, kind of in that same vein, colorway wise. I just went back to the OG Ultra Boost recently. I still love this shoe. It's just like I know that style wise it doesn't live up to like the way it did when it first came out, but it's still so damn comfortable. And summer shorts, I feel like it's a no-brainer. Speaking of summer inspired sneakers, my latest pickup is Action footwear, the Hampton with the elephant print, red bottom. I think it's pretty good little old skate shoe, kind of inspired, but I don't know. Action's always been a brand that I admired and wanted to see have some success, and this time around they actually have Kareem Campbell, who started it originally in the early 2000s, late 90s, back and heavily involved in what's going on. I'm pretty sure he owns the company again.
Oh, okay.
So it's cool to see that. I just love elephant print anything, and like that's just like an easy wear for me around the summer.
You are so about the culture, it hurts. An OG Ultra Boost and that shoe, like, damn.
I mean, I just want to buy things and have things that I care about, Like, I think that's the thing. Like, I feel like we got to this point where everything was we just acquire masses of everything, and obviously, like, I'm guilty of that. So I'm doing a lot of internal processing of all those things and trying to, like, be more selective about what I give my time and energy and money to.
Very
How about
smart.
you, Rohit?
No, that's very respectful. I don't even know how to follow that, so I will try to do my best. What I have copped is the Nike Victory 1 slide in rose gold because, pregnancy feet are nothing to joke about. So the wife had asked for slides, so I said, why not get some slides? So that was what we rocked. As for, I guess, what I would like to cop if given the opportunity, Mike made those Barcelona dunk lows look really nice. So holler at your boy. You guys lost Messi, but you could pick up a row. I'm just saying. All right.
Man, that's
nice.
Show off those slides again. You were really quick with it. Those are cool. So it's not a Benzie slide. It's something else.
Yes, it's a completely different design. One of the most interesting things about this was the fact that it had not one, not two, not three, but 4 stickers showing you the added comfort and where that added comfort is on the actual slide. So, yeah, definitely a cool slide. I might wear these when nobody's looking and have a Jane Gunn movement from, like, Silence of the Lambs, but who's to say?
So you have matching rose golds.
I have I have the one. So I had a pair of those Benassi ones that I dipped in the dyes from the baby shower, but I dipped one in the blue dye and one in the pink dye because you got to represent all possibilities. So
anything is possible.
Anything is possible. Second Celtics mention. I don't like it, Robbie. So you're going to have 2 more Laker mentions at the back end of the episode, hopefully.
Out of respect, we're retiring. Anything is possible. That's done. Yeah. Anything is not possible.
Absolutely.
Anywho, on happier notes, J.R. Smith, man, he rocks some heat back. So when I was thinking about years, I was like looking through photos of things. I was like, oh man, he had some crazy. I mean, every player, right? So I was just thinking, what year is like your favorite year? And I'm phrasing it this way for our listeners. Think back to yourself. Take a Bob Ross moment. Take a deep breath as we stroke this beautiful canvas with paint that is shoe
Happy
talk.
clouds.
Happy clouds, mountains, maybe a nice little prairie cabin. Think about your favorite year. Like maybe it's the most nostalgic year, like your favorite year ever buying shoes. That's another damn good episode. Someone write that down. Because when you think about shoes you actually purchase things in, and like when you think, wow, tangent really quick, hold on. So like when you think about big picture, what shoes you buy in a year, I know sometimes you put like an end of the year favorite or like a mid-year favorite, but when was the last time you went and looked back like a playoff bracket, like, oh, the Pacers almost beat the Pistons, they lost 3-4 in game 7, stuff like that. Go back and look and like what years collectively shoes came out at the same time or retros, and I'm sure you'll be very interested in your findings. So we'll come back to that. So I'm thinking within the same vein, what year was my favorite? And I guess I'll just start it off by saying my favorite was 2004. So why is that? There's some great shoes in 2003, which I almost picked. I almost went a little bit earlier, like 2001. But I think 4 is that like golden area of Nike basketball. And I went this Nike I'm going 4 shoe. So Nike/Jordan brand took over every spot. But that's just such like a young hatchery, right? You have all these little like things budding. Things are just starting to pop off. So like my first thought wasn't actually LeBron. He was my second thought. My first thought was Carmelo and the 1.5, the new Lakers. Carmelo and the Melo 1.5. And it's like how he came into the league wearing the 18.5, a really like weird transitional shoe, like literally between the 18, like after the 18, took the shroud off, big weird lacing, weird shoe. And then you have the 1.5, his actual signature, which is kind of like a mix between the 1 and the 2. And I think that's the most successful mixing. Jordan Brand's tried many times to put 1 and 2 together to make a 3 or make something more out of what is lesser, I guess, in my mind. So seeing like a perfect fusion with the right kind of wave around the ankle, the right kind of like weird futuristic semi like collar, right? Like a plastic feeling little collar on it that didn't quite go all the way around, with that beautiful mellow writing on it, the baby blue and white colorways. Just the mellow 1.5, man. Like, am I the only one who can wax poetic on it, or do you guys? Or am I crazy? You guys dig that shoe like that?
I'd say out of all the mellows, I like it the most, but it's one of those things that I don't know what else I can add on top of you turning into William Shakespeare and doing exactly that, waxing poetic on this sneaker that I'm sure somebody who listening to this episode has never truly understood or really taken the time. It's one of those things where this is why we do this episode, because somebody is going to find a new appreciation for that Mellow 1.5. So I think Robbie made a pretty good pick. What I'll do for 2004, and Nick, please correct me if I'm wrong, if I have the wrong year, but the T-Mac 3 All-Stars, that mix and match pair, the red and blue, that to me encapsulates probably the most forgotten star of that era. That when we talk about effortless scorers, we automatically gravitate towards the KDs of the world, and rightfully so. But before there was KD, there was T-Mac, and he was probably the perfect antithesis to Kobe, because as dedicated and passionate and as animated as Kobe was, T-Mac was the opposite. He was stoic, he was calm, he was almost indifferent on the court, but his scoring said otherwise.
I mean, I think 2004 too is like a great year because you get into the next generation, right? Like you have LeBron, the LeBron 2, you have Melo, you're setting yourself up for the next 10, 20 years of sneakers at that point, right? Because I would argue, like you said, you thought about 2002, you thought about 2003. You don't really know. Like, we all know LeBron's going to be huge and Melo's going to be huge, but like, do we know what the shoes are going to do and how it's going to be incorporated? The first year of a shoe is always cool in hindsight, but it's not always cool right out the gate, right? And I think Melo is insanely underrated when it comes to sneakers. I think he has so many good shoes. It's unfortunate that he doesn't kind of get the love that everybody seems to give to other players. That, look, he's got a longer run of signature shoes than most players will ever come close to.
So, I mean, it's great you say that, because the 1.5 did catch on right away. Like, people were receptive to that model. And then for him, and for it to be good enough for him to then wear it 15 years later in his career for fun as a retro, that's also awesome. He's keeping his own legacy alive. I love that you brought up the LeBron 2, because that was the other shoe that really got my brain thinking, like, why I want to pick 2004. I think the 2, it's easily one of the more underrated LeBrons and even underrated basketball shoes from Nike Basketball ever. That beautiful laser work behind the ankle straps that were fully removable. And on top of that, the shoe didn't look awkward when the ankle strap wasn't there. It was all Velcroed right. So just a little clip on one side that kind of looked like it should be there regardless. So specifically in my brain, 10th grade kid Eric had the all-star gray with the blue and white pair on. He put him up on the desk and he's like, check these freaking things out. And I was just like, damn, I want those. I never had them. I still have never had that shoe. The second that shoe retros, it'll be a Vengeance buy. Like the white and navy, fire. Like the black on black, fire. Like the black, white, and red, fire. All very clean, simple colorways, but just the 1.5 and the LeBron 2, like, such good early entries from studs.
Agreed.
So 2K4, right? I mean, that's probably like the quintessential 2004 shoe from Nike Basketball. I believe PE Vault just posted his Athens unreleased white and gold colorway, and it's like, damn, that thing freaking slaps too. It's like, no matter what colorway you put on the 2K4, doesn't matter if it's on Nike ID like it used to be back in the day, that shoe soaks up colors like no other. It's just a flawless color blocking shoe. There's so many great areas you can do different things in. Rondo wore that shoe also. Now that I think about it, like, that shoe is just like, it's a Hooper's hoop shoe, and anybody who is anybody will tell you that. Like, if you've played in that shoe, whether it's a retro or the OG, they hold up. So flawless victory. And then last one is weird. I noticed Nick on his list put Jordan retros too. My brain specifically went to the Jordan 12 playoff retro. I brought this up in my past in recording. There's few shoes I don't own from like OG Jordans, OG colorways. There's very few that I've never had. And the playoff 12 is one that is one of those shoes. And I played myself not getting it in like 2016 or 17 when it last retroed. I see 2004 pairs for pretty good prices. Just, I don't trust that age. So whenever it happens next, it's going to happen. But like that pair specifically, I remember seeing again in 10th grade, seeing people in the halls being like, God damn it, that shoe's flawless, man. It's like the black with the white. You can wear a white sock. You can wear a black sock. It could be high. It could be low. There's no wrong way to like wear that shoe from the ankle down. And it's just, oh, I need that shoe, man. That's like the perfect nostalgia. The 2K4 and the 12 specifically, where it's like, oh, total Robbie bait. They got me good.
I am always partial to that, and Robbie mentioned a very interesting point, which is 2004 was around high school for you, right, Robbie, or like that middle school, high school bridge. Like, a lot of my sneaker nostalgia comes from that era of, like, let's say from 2002 through 2004. And it was one of those things where I just had a hard time picking one of those years because so much of that span or that little mini era had heat for me. And it may not have heat for the collective audience that's listening, but that's part of the fun of coming up with this exercise, because nostalgia is going to dominate somebody's pick in terms of the year. So I just think great job picking the 1 year out of that little arc there, Robbie.
Well, because I'm going to get off this point, but to Nick's earlier mentioning about not knowing what the shoe looks like from a star player, we saw the LeBron 1, like that's cool, but I could wait one more year and have the LeBron 2,
yes,
which I think is a far superior. And like, okay, Melo's rocking PEs and stuff, yada yada, but his first signature shoe in the Nuggets colorway, like the 2, also came out in 2004 with the Melo 2. So like that's great, but his first joint, like the V2 of each of those 2 players early on was just.
This may be a tangent, so please rein me in, or rail me in that sense. But when was the Melo 12? The player edition of the Jordan 12 for the Melo in that nugget blue, because that is another beautiful shoe, and I think that goes back to your earlier point as well of Melo having such an underrated sneaker legacy as well as his actual playing legacy. So
no, it's the same year. That's just like, and that's why these young kids, these young cats, don't really understand the full like weight. They see old Melo, they see hoodie Melo, they see like TikTok Melo. They don't notice like Melo had like was good enough to have shoes done released. Like Jason Tatum doesn't have PEs released like that. Like Zion, I mean Zion has a signature shoe, but he doesn't have it like Melo had it. Like a lot of these young kids, like especially with like great PEs or budding signature models, like they don't have it like Melo had it. Like Melo, they put money behind him. Like they believed. And it paid off. He was a superstar. Like Melo, that paid off. But there's levels to it. Like Melo was on that top. Show me the money.
Definitely.
So I guess I'll go next with my pick, unless you want to go, Nick. I'm trying to remember.
Go for it, Rohit.
Yeah. So when Robbie gave us this exercise, my thought naturally gravitated toward, okay, what was the year that got me back into sneakers in the most official sense, which was 2011. The reason why I picked that was at the time I was employed by Nike, and that had a heavy influence on what I was purchasing. And Robbie mentioned this era, or this golden era, so to speak. And I agree that 2003-04, like I mentioned earlier, is that. I think almost a second era or almost a silver era was that 10, 11, 12, because that's when we saw the 3 wise men of Nike basketball, so to speak, of LeBron, Kobe, and KD kind of have different years when one guy's model was head and shoulders above everyone else's. But then when I was looking at it from a more macro perspective, I figured 2011 is probably the greatest overall talent from a Nike basketball perspective, because you had the KD 4, which to this day people still ride or die for. I think it's probably the best KD that there has been released. You had the Kobe 6, which is as much of a sweet spot in terms of taking what was great about the 4 and the 5, which were considered the gold standards of his line, and kind of evolving it into that Charizard, Blastoise, Venusaur model. And then lastly, you had LeBron 9, where I thought that was probably the most interesting aesthetic shoe I had seen from the LeBron line, because it was the one that in my mind was probably the first truly out there design. So I looked at that as the Holy Trinity. And then for me, the capper was the 2011 release of the Mags, because I think that is, if people ask me when did sneakers kind of jump the shark, I think it's when we all thought that the Mags were actually going to be available for purchasing. Now granted, it was absurd how expensive those shoes were, but once we hit that notion, that's when I think that flip happened, so to speak, where people were no longer just collecting sneakers for the pride of having them in their own personal collection, but it was that thought of, let me flip this and make a buck off of it. What do you guys think?
It's when I saw your list, the second I read Mag, I had to remind myself that shoe actually came out, because it's so unobtainable. It's just like, it's so far in the cosmos to me. It's like, oh, that's never going to happen. Like, if whatever, but I forgot it existed. Yeah. I mean, not just flipping a buck, but like flipping a nice car. Like,
semester's worth of education.
Or alcohol. It's either one. It's crazy.
Why not both?
The Mag is insane.
That's such a iconic shoe and story, and I fortunately or unfortunately have been like obsessed over sneakers with almost no letting off the gas for 30 something years now. And 2011 to me was like, obviously there's no chance of getting the shoes, but like I was kind of on the other side of that emotionally, because my grandfather had Parkinson's, lived with us when I was in high school, dealt with a lot of that stuff, and seeing Michael J. Fox deal with it, and then having all that stuff come out about him and the shoes and the money going to support it. Like, I was just like, genuinely like frustrated that people would be flipping those shoes when there was only, however many of them, a handful of them that actually were auctioned off. I'm always kind of torn because I love meeting people that love sneakers. I love talking to people about sneakers. But at times when it goes so big, that's when you get people that are just in it for the quick buck and they won't be around the next time. Or, it's like, it used to be that they would only show up once in a while. And then, the Jordan 11 was the one time a year that everybody would show up to resell shoes. And then, it kind of shifted into like, this is just a piece of the game that we play, which is fine. Like, I still enjoy it. And I'm not going to say that I wouldn't resell something. I wouldn't resell a Nike mag. I'd rather have that shoe. I have too much of a personal connection with it. My mom used to call me, I forget what Michael J. Fox's show name on the show Family Ties was. My mom used Alex P. Keaton. Yep. My mom used to call me that because I was always about like the money and like, trying to figure out how to make money and hustle things. And as a kid, like, I didn't realize all those connections, but when that shoe came out, it definitely was like, damn, I would rather have that than actually sell it. Like, who knows if you're in a financial position to do that, right? Like, at this point in my life, somebody came along and said, here's a couple $100,000. I'd happily give them every shoe without a few, with only 2 or 3 shoes that I would keep that have my name attached to them, or a story that I would never let go of. Yep. But like, I would also just start over again. Like, the chase is so enjoyable for me that it'd be like, okay, that was fun.
Oh no, I got to do it again.
Now I have a new wall to fill.
Yeah, I was just going to say, that's Phil Jackson going to LA after Chicago, right? Like, that's the new era of coaching or new era of collecting. I think what was interesting about that was, you mentioned your mom. That was the first time my mom asked me about sneakers, because she's like, hey, did you hear about this Michael J. Fox thing? And I was like, yeah. And that's when, for a lot of people, to your point, that may have not been familiar with this, other than, oh, this is just a passing hobby that a random family member or friend does, that's when everybody started to become a sneaker expert. And there's that popular meme going around right now where, in between taking turns of everybody becoming like a medical expert, they're also a foreign policy expert. Well, that was the first time we had sneaker experts that were traditionally not there with lining up with us, let's say on a Saturday or a Sunday.
Yeah.
Yep.
What else you got?
Yeah, what else you got from 2011? Because the mags are pretty heavy hitter. But.
No, that's why I figured, like, I front-loaded it with the mags, but I guess my question to you guys was similar to kind of how I introduced the Nike basketball silver era of Kobe, KD, and LeBron. Like, was this the best year where we saw probably the most consistent in terms of overall talent? Because I could think that the year that Kobe 4 came out, maybe the LeBron wasn't as high and maybe the KD was in its infancy, but that drives home the point that we were just talking about in 2004 with LeBron and Melo, in the sense that, like, okay, you're excited about this new player coming up, and what's that natural inclination to be even more excited is they're going to get their signature shoe, and that represents such an unlimited possibility of what the shoe could look like, because at the end of the day, a shoe's supposed to supplement the guy's game or the girl's game. But what were you guys feeling in that era? Is the 9 probably your favorite LeBron from that era? Similarly, is the KD 4 really the people's champ, the way that we've been led to believe the last 10 years?
I mean, I think Robbie made a good point about, so the way I associate the KD 4 is the way that Robbie talks about, like, Melo having money dumped into him and him being pushed as like, this is the future, right? KD was not that. The first two shoes were very underwhelming, to say the least. When you found out that it was like $100 and under shoe is what he was shooting for originally, then it was like, okay, I get it. but like the shoes were very, unless the color was perfect for you personally, not many people were like, gotta have the KD 1 or 2.
Right.
The 3, you know, gets interesting. I think the 4 though was like, oh, not only is KD like fully come into his abilities on the court, but the shoes are right there with him, right? Like the shoes are, I personally prefer the Kobe 4 over the 5 and 6, but like, you know, it's hard to argue that the KD wasn't the Nike basketball shoe for that year, just based on how many great colorways came out. And that's thanks to a little bit of pushing the envelope with the design, right? Like that only happens if you're taking the risk.
So the way like Kyrie is cool now, it can have every kind of colorway out there. Like KD was cool then. Not like KD isn't cool now, but KD was like young and cool.
He was universally adored.
Yeah. There wasn't drama with him. So, and that's, I don't think the drama is self-imposed. I mean, it's a whole nother conversation I don't want to go down. But like, he was just, yeah, he was a golden boy with a lot of money being pumped in. KD4 as a shoe sucks ass though. Like, that's a very uncomfortable shoe. When you look at his banana feet, it makes sense. It's probably the longest, most narrow shoe I've ever put on in my life. And when you look at his foot, it's the longest, most narrow foot you're probably ever going to see. It's like somebody was drawing and they ran out of time and they finished and they drew like a line at the bottom. Huge feet. So the Kobe is always going to be my winner of those 3 options there. The LeBron 9's great, but Kobe's better. Very good year.
Here's a sneaker history trivia Discord fact for Greg on one of the next sneaker history trivias. I was actually wear testing shoes for Nike basketball prior to like getting into like blogging and stuff. So like in 2000, I want to say 2007 or 2008, 2009, must have been 2009. I wear tested a very early version of the KD4 that was like not labeled as a KD, and it was, the materials were terrible, but like the strap across the foot they were testing, the lacing system they were testing. I think Jermaine Phase 2 has those now, but
what else?
It was really interesting to like see that come out. You know, a solid like, it was like 2 years later when the shoe actually released, and they made a bunch of changes because remember they were doing all that weird hyperfuse stuff, right? So the hyperfuse was like they were trying to figure out how to incorporate hyperfuse into other lines, and like one of the shoes that I wear tested was like a weird hyperfuse variant of the KD4.
So you messed it up. We could have had a better fitting shoe.
No. Clearly, it was Jermaine.
No, it was mad uncomfortable. I mean, I don't find the KD4 like terribly uncomfortable. I wouldn't suggest it as a shoe that's comfortable, but it doesn't bother me that much. But like this one was really struggling because it was like the outsole combination was the old hyperfuse, if you guys remember that. The upper was like a leather kind of version that looked like the KD4, but then instead of having the Velcro on one place, it was like down the side of the shoe, so you could adjust the strap up and down. And I think they were just trying to figure out the fitment and what would stay when you're hooping and all that stuff. But I just a random like, you know, emotional attachment to the KD4 for me, I guess.
Sure. And I think one last point I will say about the 4 was it was the first indicator to me about the stories that were being told with the colors associated with the sneaker. Like you had the Weatherman colorway, you had the Nerf colorway, you had all these unique colorways that for me unlocked the possibility of why we collect sneakers. And it's you wearing the pair, but then you're also carrying on the legacy of the story and telling people, yeah, Katie always wanted to be a Weatherman, so hence the Weatherman pair. I'm kind of going through the list. One other shoe that I forgot came out in 2011, and Nick, I know you probably have an opinion on this, and I think you do as well, Robbie. The SB Costin 1 also came out in that year, and for me, that was kind of the first indicator because I'm as casual of a skateboarding fan as you can be, but Costin going to Nike was one of those like, okay, Nike's about this now, because this is the first skater that I had heard of in my like complete layman attitude understanding of skateboarding. Was that as big of a deal for you guys who have a little bit more history from not only the sneaker side but the skateboarding side, or was that just kind of a blasé moment? Hey, it's cool, Costin's got a sneaker, but really it's not making impact to us.
Never. It's funny. I thought about Costin's shoes when I was looking through photos to try to post on Sneaker History today. I'm like, no one's going to care about Eric Costin shoes. And it's sad, but I don't personally care. They're cool. I love Eric Costin, but like from a shoe perspective, he's like a big man in basketball. He doesn't sell shoes for me. I still love him.
He's a big Laker fan, so I got you one.
Yeah, no, I for real, like as a human being, I love Eric Costin, but yeah, it doesn't make me want to buy shoes.
Yeah, that's fair. I mean, he definitely he's the face of a generation in skateboarding too, right? Like he is, you know, just like you said about the mag being a shoe that reached the masses. He was a skateboarder that reached the masses for that era. So I kind of have a different perspective on it because I had been working at Soul Collector magazine prior to all that stuff. So Soul Collector, we'd already featured him in the magazine, you know, like we'd already seen his collection as a like, you know, support your local skate shop, you know, kind of mentality for me still to this day. Like it was a bummer to see anybody sign with Nike. Just because, you know, it's big business, right? It's like the Olympics, you know, it's a blessing and a curse for skateboarding to become part of the Olympics, because part of what makes skateboarding great is that it doesn't take anything to be a part of it. It doesn't cost anything. If you're a kid and you walk into a skate shop and hang out there long enough, they're literally just going to give you a board and say, come skate with us. Like that's how it works. And that's always been the beauty of it. And I think the sneaker part of it has been tough to kind of navigate, right? Because you see that, like to Robbie's point, if we post some stuff on the Instagram, you know, like most of the time the skate stuff doesn't do well. It's just that like, it's a huge part of what got me into, you know, not got me into it, but kept me in sneakers, you know, kept me involved. Like the S Costin line is exponentially better to me than the Nike Costin line. That's not to say that the Nike Costin line is not great. It's just that he was like kind of the face of underground skateboarding for a few years there, then became, once you signed with Nike, it's almost like, you know, the cat's out of the bag, right? You know, like everybody knows who you are. And, but he's a genuine fan of Jordan's, you know, all of his S shoes were, you know, various inspirations of the Jordan line and Nike shoes anyway. To me, like, I actually think, you know, to Robbie's point, he's a great dude. And the fact that he and Steve Barra have the barracks and are still pushing the sport of skateboarding forward, you know, even though they're not as big in terms of their own personal, you know, accomplishments right this second. You know, he's just a huge piece of the foundation of where skateboarding is going to go in the future. And I think his shoes are eventually going to find their, you know, it's kind of like P-Rod. Eventually people like go back to the P-Rod line and, you know, find that they didn't appreciate it the first time around near as much as they might have, you know, wished they did. So I think you'll see the same thing with Costin, hopefully with S and with Nike, right? Because if there's ever a reason to kind of keep the legacy alive for the entire run of his signature shoes, you know, they've already done it before, right? Lakai made, you know, the Costin one that was modeled off the S, you know, like they've done tribute shoes for him before. So I could see, you know, it being a huge piece of the future too, at some point, once everything's going to ebb and flow. We're getting to the point where everybody's wearing baggy jeans again. You're going to eventually see like massively stuffed tongues and fat shoes, and you know, like it'll be trendy for a while, and then it'll go away again. FUBU jerseys, yeah, Avericks, Aniche, whatever it is. So this was a question that actually really I had to think about, because there's so many good ones, right? Part of me wanted to say like 2007 or whenever it was that I got started actually working in sneakers. Cause like to me, that was a cool thing. I wasn't buying a lot of shoes cause I didn't make any money, but like getting to write about shoes and talk about shoes was like a game changer. But ultimately I think I had to come back to like me as a kid, 1994 is probably the most important. You know, I'm like a freshman in high school. I guess like being able to see the retros and I didn't have a chance to get them in reality, but in my mind, I had a chance to get them at that time, you know, and thought, how cool would it be to be able to get a pair of Air Jordan 3s? Like black cement 3s, white cement 3s. That was like just such a, you know, cheesy term, but like defining moment for sneakers for me, because it made me think like, wow, you know, stuff I saw on TV, you know, watching WGN and TNT, going to a friend's house to watch it cable, you know, like kind of stuff, and seeing the shoes. Now it's like, wait, these are coming back? Like, how is that even possible? And the boxes, I remember just seeing the box. It was like, oh my God, this is like the entire history of, you know, Jordans, even though like, you know, now it's like, yeah, dude, that was like, what, 9 years? You know,
man,
like,
I would much rather have your experience than the man that was like, than the jaded experience 20 years later. So
yes,
that's,
I agree.
yeah.
Kick ass.
Well, and it's interesting because like, it was like the time that I was already obsessed with shoes, but it was the time that I was like becoming like probably unhealthily obsessed with shoes. So not only was it the retro Jordans coming back for the first time, which I didn't care. I thought it was cool that the Jordan 1 came back at that time, but I didn't like, it was not a shoe that I wanted at that time.
3 is
like,
way cooler.
The 3 was a way cooler shoe because it had visible air. And in that era, I was still trying to get a shoe with visible air. You know, like that was like still the thing that you wanted. But I think too, like on the flip side of that, you had, you know,
The Maestro, right?
Yep.
well, yeah, like the Nike basketball stuff was obviously big. So you had like the Air Maestro, the Too Strong is then the Air Unlimited, which, you know, for me, like Chris Webber is still my favorite player. I went to this, my 5th and 6th grade teacher was the same teacher for 2 years. Lived in a small town in Oregon, Roseburg, Oregon, went to the same school and played basketball. And my 5th grade teacher gave me a high school sports magazine and, you know, in between my 5th and 6th grade years. And on the cover was Chris Webber, who had scored, you know, 63 points in his high school country day in Detroit. That just set me on course to be a Chris Webber fan for the remainder of my life, basically. And I think the craziest part about thinking about all these shoes from that era, I was so obsessed with everyone. Once you sent that, I was like, okay, like it's got to be high school for me, which it was. Like that's my freshman year, I think, sophomore year maybe. Then Tupac is the other obsession in my life at that time. My brother is like massively into tennis and obsessed with Andre Agassi. Andre Agassi wears the Nike Air Flare. Tupac wears the Nike Air Flare. These are all of my worlds. Just like there's just so much crossover and all this stuff. I have to pick that year because it was just like, wow, here's everything. Not to mention, like, you know, I would have bought my first pair of Jordans in '94, the Air Jordan 9s, charcoals or black and charcoal, whatever it is, red, black and charcoal. So for me, that like is like the starting point of like me being fully committed and obsessed with sneakers for the rest of my life, apparently. So
No, there's something so powerful, I guess, informative about the high school period. No matter when you went to high school, that's when you really start building your real feelings about shoes. And that changes. Like now, some of the shoes I think are cool, I don't think are cool. But the 5 I brought up are still damn cool to me now. So
yeah,
the powerful ones will always get all the way through. But that 90s stuff is just, I would say the 90s is even more heavy hitting because you had more brands firing off. But Nike on its own was just classic. It's crazy. It's crazy.
Yeah. And there's a lot of other stuff out right then too that was like really big to me. A lot of the Converse basketball stuff was huge. Larry Johnson, I think the Destroyers that year. I'll have to save the story for another episode, but like the Pump Fury, I've been into the Pump Fury from the very beginning for like a very specific story, and it's a little long-winded, so I'll have to save it. But like that's 94 as well. I didn't get the original shoes. It took me years to get them, and it took me even longer to get the actual original colorway. But like it's always been something that I've, you know, like as soon as I started like spending my own money and working too much for myself, like I was buying Pump Furies. So that is another shoe in that same year where it was like, this shoe is just crazy. It's absolutely one of the craziest shoes ever seen. A massive plate of carbon fiber, no laces. You have to realize in 1994, the other shoes are so traditional 90s basketball. To think of a running shoe that was like that was mind blowing. So I was like, I became obsessed with that because it was like, well, I've never seen these on anybody's feet. So I'm just going to be obsessed over them for years to come. And I probably even was like starting to get into New Balance at that time. I can't really remember what shoe was 94. It's probably like the 1400 or 1500. Wouldn't have been the 1500.
Number X.
But like, yeah, I think it's the 1400 probably came out then, but I probably had 574s or some, you know, knockdown, takedown, cheap version of all those shoes because I just didn't have the money to get real shoes. And back then I was like, oh, N on the side. That's cool. My name's Nick. Like having an N on my shoe. Like,
hell yeah. No, that's cool stuff. I mean, we're going to get off this topic, but Ronaldo stuff, I don't care about Ronaldo, but I see the R and I'm like, all right, that's kind of tight.
Yeah. No, I went to thefatbuddhastore.com because they had the most exhaustive New Balance timeline. And Nick, you are right. The 1400s did come out in 1994. I didn't realize how delayed they were either. Like, that's almost a 9-year wait after the M1300 came out in 85.
Huh.
Yeah, I think there's various stuff that came out and they bounced around. New Balance is like wildly inconsistent with their numbering, which is, you know, I think it's probably half the reason why people aren't actually like just easily New Balance fans, because the quality of their shoes is always good. But if people don't know what the differences are and if it's not easy to see them, you know, then it's hard for people to become a fan because they have to like put in effort to, you know, keep up. And especially back then, nobody was really doing that. Unless you were a runner that ran in those shoes originally, you probably didn't pay attention to New Balance changing things very often.
There was no sneaker blog telling you that the new model's out.
Nope. And there was very little stuff outside, you know, like outside of East Bay. There was like just very few things you could even find information. You know, it was just such a different world then. I did remember seeing like, it was probably later. It was probably like late 90s that I started seeing like, I'd get to see like, I mean, you probably know, Robbie, but like Japantown in San Francisco has like, there's a massive bookstore there. Mm-hmm. And, you know, we would wander down there and, you know, there would be shoe catalogs there. I mean, in hindsight, I wish I would have just bought them all, added them to the massive piles of my magazines stuff.
If money wasn't a thing and you could just like, and it's so funny, the things we don't, whatever thing it is, money was $5, $10. I don't have $20 to buy two of them, you know? Just like, oh, if only I did. Or you did.
Yep.
I think we could probably do, listener, I guess let's wrap up this way. There's always going to be a pair in your head where it's like, damn, my favorite year, I probably could have got shoe X for $40, $50, and now it's $400. Because 2003 had a lot of good Jordan 1s, and I was like, oh, I almost want 2003 because now they're worth like dummy money. But the world's crazy. If you love it, you never know. Go for it.
Yep. I would love to see what other people think about this too. Like we got to put this in the Discord and have a solid conversation about it. Maybe this is our next topic for a Zoom call or something. Cause I feel like you made a good point about like high school being the kind of, you know, it's your
foundation.
You know, yeah. It's the foundation, right? It's, you know, it's like, it's almost like, you know, that formidable years conversation as a baby, right? But like, then there's like the becoming your own from like 12 to 17 or
The
whatever that
formative
is
years.
Formative.
Not formidable.
years, yeah.
You're fighting
Oh,
people
for
as a
some,
baby.
they are
Yeah,
formidable. Let's go with that.
Pulls out a baby shank out of his diaper. It's like, what's up?
Boss baby.
It's been a long day and I need to get some food. So
You're
On that
entitled
note,
to
we should
it.
get
but-
out of here then.
But hey, this was a really great topic, though. So I would love to hear from everyone if you have some thoughts on what your favorite year was for sneakers. And yeah, shout out to Robbie for dropping this gem in the what did you call the exclusive chat?
The super secret thread, the
Bro,
double
talk to-
probation.
the super secret. Yeah, appreciate everybody rocking with us, tuning in, supporting. If you haven't left us a review, that'd be super dope. We're looking for reviews to read for the next episode, so we would appreciate it. But like, favorite, subscribe if you're watching us on YouTube. We're trying to get to that elusive 1,000 subscriber mark so that they can pay us 2 or 3 cents a video or something like that. And then you've got to sit through 15 seconds of some random brand. So that'll be fun for you guys if you want to subscribe.
Yep.
Realize it sounds like a bad sales job, but guys, let them know how they can find you and we'll get out of here.
You can find me on Instagram at RohitM13, on Twitter at Roheezy, and on YouTube with one of my 8 burner accounts that will all be subscribing to Sneaker History in the next 30 minutes. Robbie, where can they find you?
Chia. You can find me at RAHBEE702. Nick.
Right on. You can find me at Nick Ingval on all the platforms, but more importantly, catch us at Sneaker History on all the platforms, and we'll catch you on the next episode. Peace.
Thanks for being here.